What is up, bros? Me, Josh here, and today's video is all about the Tier 8 Cleveland. Now, this has been a ship that for the longest time, if you remember, it was a Tier 6 ship and had been rumored to finally moving up to Tier 8 and eventually has. And people were a little worried. People loved it at Tier 6. It was extremely strong at Tier 6, and it's been there for so long, basically since the game has been released. And now it's been moved to Tier 8, and a lot of people were, I think, a little worried of what was going to happen, how is it going to compete, how is it going to do, and I think people are falling in love with it at Tier 8 as much as they were at Tier 6. You know, it had some pretty big shoes to fill. This thing was an absolute monster, amazing at what it did. And moving up to Tier 8, people were kind of worried about what's going to happen. Is it still going to be able to compete? It seems too fragile for Tier 8, doesn't have enough health for Tier 8. And really, this ship, I think, has continued to excel, and it's still one of the perfect jack of all trades at Tier 8. I even think if there was clan battles, or not clan battles, ranked battles at Tier 8, I still think the ship would be extremely successful in what it does, and you can kind of see what this is. Now, this isn't an extremely good game, but it just really, I realized I really hadn't made a video about this ship since it's been moved to Tier 8. It's just, I've played it, I've loved it, and I'm really enjoying it. Now, I am running an inertia fuse captain. I'm running an inertia fuse, concealment expert, and AFT, so it's basically all set around being as stealthy as possible, getting those lower shell size, is doing as much damage with the inertia fuse, as well as having as much AA as possible. So the build I am running does take a lot, does take a high level captain, but it's basically really good. I think if honestly, I would grab concealment expert first, then inertia fuse, then AFT. So a 14-point captain, which is very doable, especially at Tier 8, especially if you've played this ship, and this ship is just extremely good at doing stuff like this. Now, one thing I was really worried about this, also for my modules, I'm running AA range, steering gears, to be able to turn as fast as possible, and of course concealment. But this ship is extremely good at doing stuff like this. Now, this is almost like the perfect island cutout for this ship. There's a lot of islands that are like this in the game, and this is when the Cleveland can really excel and use that USN arc to just absolutely murder. Again, just in 3 salvos, we're with a fire, and we're already up to 10k damage. You don't want to give out too much, but you do want to take out that plane, which it does have the AA range, up to 7.2. And you can just do a massive amount of damage without really taking much threat, because if you just keep backing up, knock down those planes, there's nothing that they can really do to you. You know, you're gonna have that USN arc being able to camp up, and this is one thing too with this line that I was a little worried about this being a primarily kind of a campy, an island hugging line, which, you know, for a lot of people I think is a pretty, I would say, pretty boring play style. For me, I'm not the biggest fan of the Des Moines. I always call it kind of an island hugging ship, and I'm not the biggest fan of it. I tend to like open water ships because they're just, to me, more fun to play. But I've actually found that this line in general can really excel in even open water. Now, of course, if you're going broadside and these have very high flat walls, you're going to go back to port very quickly, as you are seeing right now with a ton of people. A lot of people, the Cleveland is actually their first Tier 8 ship they've probably gotten, because if you had the Tier 6, you got the Tier 8 ship for free. So for a lot of people, this is their first ship that they got at Tier 8. So they got thrown into this. So you're seeing that a lot with a lot of the new ships. A lot of people sailing broadside. This thing isn't going to be able to just tank, kind of like the Kronstadt can. It's not going to be able to bounce a ton of shells like, you know, even the Hipper could, or some of these other cruisers that are a bit more tanky. This is a pretty fragile ship, but I've been having a lot of fun, especially when I had played the Worcester when it was still work in progress, the Tier 10. I found that to be a really fun ship to actually play in open water, just because the DPM can be so high. With your rate of fire, amount of shells, inertia fuse going out, you can just out DPM everything. So yeah, especially if 2 battleships are right in front of my face, I'm going to play a little close to these islands. But later in this game, you can see I play a little bit more open water. And yes, it does have a bit of an arc, but it's still a massive amount of fun. It can just be super deadly. You see, this is just, it's perfect. I'm kind of hitting a bunch of kind of the lower armor belt. I wish I would have aimed a little bit higher here, but we're trying to get those fires on that superstructure. But as you can see, I'm still breaking a decent amount of shells. These are smaller caliber shells, but I would be breaking so many many more shells if I wasn't running inertia fuse. I really do think to make this line really excel, you do need inertia fuse. That is a 4-point captain, and it's really tough to take, let's say, inertia fuse over concealment expert, in my opinion, unless you want to play extremely, extremely slow because of how fragile this ship can be. But if I wasn't running inertia fuse, I probably would have had maybe 2/3 of my damage and way more broken shells. So, not needed to have success, but I think that to really get the full potential of this ship, I think it kind of is. And you know, an upside and a downside about this line, it does take a more like a higher level captain than just throwing demo expert, concealment expert like you can on the IGN line, like you can on the German line, like you can on the Russian line. Not really have to worry about it. This does take a little bit higher of a captain, but still, you'll get so much XP out of these ships. I mean, just farming these BBs, holding down this line. Unluckily, our team is getting slaughtered on the other side, which is kind of a bummer. But if we can take out 2 battleships, especially 2 Massachusetts that are chilling over here, these are their 2 big boys, that's just a positive. And especially as the Barons coming in and a couple of the battleships, that's kind of a decent little trade. Yeah, we're losing the other side, but if we can get these kills, that's really, really good. One thing I love to do on this map, and I don't know if you guys enjoy doing it, it seems like everyone kind of filters over to C and B. I love going, does anybody else do this? I love going, if I spawn on south side, I love going B to A, and if I spawn on this side, I love going A to B. I don't think that many people do this. Everyone seems to kind of go over to C and D cap, which, and it's still always funny when you see people go to the 9-10 line, which was the old D cap. There's nothing over there anymore. Why are people going there? But people still do. This map seems very weird with this setup. I feel like people aren't quite sure what to do with this, and you just see so many people go to where the C and D cap are now. But I love going to the A and B cap. I think it's so much fun. If you win that, you tend to have such an advantage over your team, because if you win it, then you have a huge flank on a team that slowly has to push around and filter through these kind of channeled areas. And look at this farm. All 4 of their battleships are over here. Well, we're missing 1 still. Oh, one of the Massachusetts got away, but all their battleships went over here. This is a Cleveland getting 100,000 damage in the first 8 minutes. But as I said earlier, this ship really is kind of a jack of all trades. And what do I mean by that? Is this line has a ton of tools. Now, it has sonar, it has AA, it has radar. You know, it doesn't have a heal. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't have smoke or anything like that. But still, you're strong against DDs. You're amazing against planes. You have that radar, long distance radar, that USN radar. This thing is a great ship. Now, a bit of a downside, the more tools you have, the more expensive it is to play, especially, you know, people getting into the higher tiers, the Wooster. You know, you're looking at thousands and thousands of credits to keep everything premium. So on top of the normal consumables, you're running premium. I run premium all my consumables now. As people get higher with the the Wooster and stuff like that, it's going to be a little bit harder, and it's going to kind of affect the profits you're going to get from that ship. But if you are running like a premium account and stuff like that, you could potentially get that. Now we had a CV sniping Kagero going towards our Ranger. Luckily, it's Ranger versus Ranger, which means that my AA alone should be able to do some work, and we finally won the side. Just the downside was their lighter ships got through our flank much easier, and we had to slowly burn down their heavy ships. So DD's gonna grab that. I'm gonna rotate towards B, and we have that battleship off to our right, which we need to worry about. But I need to get my guns into the battle over here. Luckily, against 4 battleships, I only lost what? And it was basically just on the secondaries. I lost just under 6K. But I do have to worry about that Massachusetts, although he's not the most accurate battleship. One thing you have to worry about is he still is a battleship. So, also, one thing that's kind of cool about this game, or about this ship, is that the range isn't extremely far. And luckily our battleship got that trade right before he went down. It's not extremely far, so what you can do is you can engage ships, like as you saw that I wasn't getting spotted there because the Massachusetts was kind of farther away. So upside about this is you're not going to hit things like super crazy far away anyway, just because of the arc. It's just insane. Unless you have like something AFK. You know, if this ship could shoot out to 18 kilometers, you're really not going to hit anything at 18 kilometers, because you're just the travel time is going to be, you know, 5 minutes basically. That's a joke, but it's going to be crazy long. So one thing we're hoping here is hoping our ranger can snag our that DD and take him out, but probably won't be able to. It's a ranger against Kagero, and he was auto dropping, and now the fight is going there. But this is where we start seeing the kind of jack of all trades I'm talking about, of this ship just being able to do everything. So I'm trying to take out as many of these planes as possible. The toggle's pushing around, but we have a Bismarck, a Mogami, an Akazuki, and our ranger. But even though we have inertia fuse, we're still going to switch up to AP and start working this guy down. We have sonar up for another 50 seconds. We're going to try to take out as many planes. And always, guys, be sure to control click on yours to get your a little bit more effective. He does get a little lucky torp hit right there. But I got to worry about the Satago. Luckily, he just went around this corner, not worrying about anything. He had a little bit of an unfavorable angle for me. Mogami gets him. Akazuki gets the Fubuki, and just like that, we got a couple swing. But always try to punish ships as much as possible. Try to punish the CV as much as possible is what I'm trying to say. Whether he's rolling in, always focus those planes, control click, and get as much of your AA onto that as possible, because the faster you can do that, the less pains he's going to have. A lot of people tend to only really focus on planes as they're coming in and really don't focus on them after, but still be focusing your AA and get as much as you can. Unluckily, I think our Mogami does get, I think he gets a trade here. I'm not sure. I think he either takes torps here. But still, 1 for 1. The Ranger, okay, so the Kagero ends up getting our CV. I forgot. I knew at one point he did. Yeah, he was just auto-dropping, so it's pretty tough to do that. So right now we're going against a DD that's going to be slowly taking a cap, and we have a Ranger, which still has planes, a Massachusetts, which is south, Kagero, which is north. We don't really have to worry about the Kagero offensively, putting any damage on these guys. Yeah, the York got our Mogami, so kind of a downside. So we have something with planes against something that's very weak against planes, which is the Bismarck. We have a DD. He's very low on health, but he's very strong, and he can probably beat a Kagero 1v1. And we have me with 17k and a Massachusetts that can kill me with 2 shells. So not the best thing right now, but one thing I was talking about with my Akatsuki here is he goes to A-cap, defends that. I don't know why their Kagero went in a weird circle. If I was like Kagero, I run straight to A-cap. Apparently he's trying to get some plane kills or something. I don't know. But I'm talking to this Bismarck. You'll see in a second in chat for this Bismarck to stay with me, because I'm his safe space right now. I am his safe space, because if he gets wrecked, especially if they're AP bombers, I don't know if the Ranger was running AP bombers, but yeah, so I'm saying the Bismarck, he's with me. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus down these last couple of guys. Luckily, this Bismarck goes kind of ham at the end, and I'm going to keep him safe from these planes. As you can see, I'm spotted by planes, so that means they're coming, and we're going to focus the ever-living hell out of these torp bombers. So we're probably down. I don't even know if I can see it in the replay. I was wondering how much AA I still had at this point. Not that much, but what we're going to do is just focus the heck out of the torp bombers, because they're, of course, going to do the most damage per hit. And he tries to drop on that. He drops into the island, so that was pretty awesome. We debated him there and focus on this. Now, one thing you can see me do a lot when I play, you can't see what I'm control clicking on, is I will focus on the dive bomber. Let's see if there's multiple groups coming in. I'll focus on the dive bomber that's coming in, and then once it's gone into the animation, I'll switch to the secondary one. I'll switch to the back one, basically, because one thing I'll see a lot of people do, and you can see the alpha damage here, what a lot of people end up doing is they just stick onto one target. But what you want to do is you want to spread your A. Once that first group has dropped, there's no reason to continue to focus on one. So be sure to switch. Basically, that's going to be up to your micromanagement, but that's a really good tip for a lot of people, especially if you have AA consumables still up. You want to focus on the target that still hasn't been dropped. I see a lot of CVs also doing that. This guy stood no chance. And the one reason I went kind of south on this is there weren't going to be any planes, but he's going to have to give one of us broadside. So that's why I kind of split up, so he couldn't really focus us both down. Down he goes. The Cleveland's just going to chew it up. 330 hits, 8 fires. We shot down 18 planes and more to come. 2 kills so far, even 3 secondary hits. I wonder what that was on. And then we got a base cap as well. So we're gonna be heading that way. There's a couple more torp bombers coming in, but it's only 2. I think he would have to take both of them anyway. But that's a good tip though for AA. Don't just stick onto one AA one group, right? This range is going to have 3 offensive groups. As soon as that would be going around, I would be switching to the dive bomber. Once it makes the animation, the damage is done. Put your stuff on something that can still do damage. Good dodge by Bismarck there as well. So he took a little bit of damage there, and he pumped out the right amount, and I'm going to basically just keep on him. 30 seconds. If there was a CV drop or a CV coming in with another round of planes, I probably wouldn't have my AA up in time, but my AA in general, my bubble, the 7.2 that I have, would still be good. And this is why it's pretty important to run the AA range module, which I run, as well as AFT, because it's 20% and 20%. It's not so much, whenever I talk about these, people think, well, especially on like stuff like IJN ships or even Russian ships that tend to not be quite known for their AA range. One thing that's really important is just purely what it does when you pop an AA consumable. And what I mean by that is it panic drops them, right? So if you've ever played CVs, when something is under the effect of an AA consumable, an AA, basically me hitting T, what it does is, and boom, that's when you want to switch right away. As you can see, instantly my AA started switching over. Once it's down, it's down. You want to take out the next group as much as possible. I see a lot of people not really doing that. But even with like let's say, insert Mogami. For a chance. Not the highest AA rating at all, but what you want to do is you want to still run, in my opinion, you still want to run those AA ranges because you want to panic drop those planes. What that's going to do is going to make you take way less damage, because it's not about cutting planes out of the sky, it's about spreading that damage around. You could go from potentially taking 3 torps to taking 1, if not 0, because of the panic drop. Because if you've ever seen a panic drop. So I think a lot of people misunderstand what the actual what the positivity of, what's the good outcome of what the AA consumable does. It's not really about cutting down planes. That's just the bonus. It's really about spreading the planes out more than anything. You can go, especially with AP bombs, you know, if you're just like a Minotaur, right? That's not going to have the spreading out effect that you would, the panic effect that the other AA consumables will. But you do have the ability to just cut down planes, but you're never going to spread them apart. You could have an entire group of dive bombers do 0 damage because it's just panicked and none of them are going to hit, right? It's just a bigger area. But anyways, a fun little game, 136,000 damage, a ton of plane kills, just kind of showing you overall just all the tools that this ship has. I'm loving it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of the new Cleveland, and if you're liking it at tier 8, or did you like it more at tier 6? I think it's doing really well here, and I think it's an overall fun ship to play. But anyways, guys, a couple more planes to end this fight. That'll put us over 30, and a couple of goodbye hits. But anyways, that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.